Danger Dolan.
From graphic overhauls to sequels, we count 10 fan-made games that rival or even outdo the originals that you can play right now.
Number 10.
Deus Ex Revision. This is just a graphics mod, but it totally deserves to be on this list since the original Deus Ex's graphics are bad enough to make your average gamer choose not to play the game. To be fair, unless you played games in this era or already played this game before, they really are an affront to your eyes. Many people, including myself to a certain extent, don't think graphics really add or subtract much to a game, but that's not necessarily true in games that seek to immerse you and tell a story. Poor representations of the game's version of reality can lead to confusion and detract from the creator's vision and take you out of the experience. Also, it can be really hard to enjoy a story when the graphics are bad enough that you can't forget you're just playing a game.
Number 9.
Super Mario Star Road. Super Mario 64 never ended up getting a true sequel, so someone going by the handle Skelix decided to make his own, and he did a great job of doing so. With 130 stars to collect through a new overworld and set of levels, it's a great game for any 64 fan to play. Although many of the assets are reused from the original or taken from other 64 games, the difficulty isn't exactly a progression, although towards the end it definitely ramps up to the point where a veteran will have troubles progressing. And that's not all, Skelix also added a multiplayer version online. It's not exactly perfect online, but for local co-op it's definitely playable and enjoyable. Hopefully Skelix gets the sequel finished soon, as it's planned to have 240 unique stars to collect.
Number 8.
Mech Warrior Living Legends. One of the few fan games to receive sanctioning from the original intellectual property owner, this game encapsulates all that was great about the old Mech Warrior games and more. Well, actually that's not precisely true, it's multiplayer only, so it's hardly a complete replacement. Wandering Samurai Studios didn't just recreate the feel of the old games, they also added in vehicles. I can't really see anyone who would want to use anything other than a mech, but hey, the more things I can blow up with my arm cannons, the better. Unfortunately, the game no longer receives updates, but the online scene is still really active and the game is reasonably well balanced and glitch free, so this doesn't detract much from the overall enjoyability of the game.
Number 7.
DayZ. When this Arma 2 mod gained traction in the online gaming community, Arma 2 and its expansion topped the charts and hovered in the top bought games for years. For good reason too, as it's a well-made game that really encapsulates the feeling of many zombie movies. I mean, don't get me wrong, the zombies aren't slow and the game mechanics are clunky, but that doesn't mean you should skip this one, and of course, chances are you've already played the mod or the standalone game that came out. There's no real goal to accomplish, but that's part of the beauty of it, as there's a whole lot of emergent gameplay to be found, with clans of people grouping together to fend off the other players, because really, once you've played for long enough, you realize that people are the ones you actually need to be worried about.
Number 6. Renegade X.
Command & Conquer hasn't had a decent game in a long while, not since 2009 actually, when the fan remake of Renegade, the spin-off third-person shooter, released in 2002. Sure, it's not an RTS, but it still has the same really cool features that makes it feel very much like it belongs with the others. It was originally an Unreal Tournament 3 mod, but as of 2014, it's standalone with its own single player. Command & Conquer wouldn't be the same if it didn't have bases, so that's actually where the main aim of the multiplayer focuses around. Using dozens of unique infantry classes and 15 vehicles, your objective is to take out the enemy's base while protecting your own. Each building has its own unique purpose and perks, so when you lose one, it's not just another score for the opposing team, it's a genuine loss that could be the seed of your downfall, and of course each team has different classes, vehicles, and strategies, much like the RTS games.
Number 5.
The Dark mod. If you love the old Thief games, and you know you should, then the Dark mod is a great mod to check out. It was originally a Doom 3 mod, but is now a standalone id game, and it features user-friendly creation tools for you to make your own Thief levels. There's also the fact that the devs put a lot of work into making it easy to share and find missions for you to play. Making levels can be pretty fun and very rewarding when people enjoy your hard work. Even if you don't enjoy making your own levels, there's plenty of community-made missions for you to play, with variations in difficulty, stealth, and story focuses that make it fun for just about every fan of the genre.
Number 4.
OpenTTD. Unless you're a train sim fanatic, you've probably never heard of Transport Tycoon Deluxe, but you don't need to have miles of miniature train sets in your basement to enjoy OpenTTD. All you need is to enjoy playing games like SimCity and Banished. As you might have guessed from the name, TTD isn't just about trains, it's about all forms of commercial and public transport to create an industry that successfully ships around cargo and passengers for profit. Trust me, it's more fun than it sounds. Plus, there's also up to 255-person multiplayer, where you can jointly run one corporation or compete to make the best company possible. Go on and give it a download if any of this sounds even mildly interesting. You won't be disappointed.
Number 3.
Black Mesa, HalfLife. For the longest time this mod was considered vaporware, a game that would never leave development, but to everyone's surprise it was actually released in 2012, and best of all, it was actually really good, despite missing the last few levels. While I don't need good graphics to play a game that's otherwise good, having something better than a garish approximation of the developer's vision is always much appreciated, especially when the game is trying to immerse you in its environment. But the Black Mesa goes beyond the graphics, it also runs on the same engine as Half-Life 2, adding to the ways you can play the game in subtle but important ways, making this an amazing remaster. It's certainly better than most modern HD versions, where the original already ran in HD.
Number 2.
Project M. While Super Smash Bros. Brawl is a fun game, it has a whole bunch of weird and sometimes strangely intentional faults, like the fact that it's impossible to remove RNG from the game thanks to the mechanic where your character can and will slip for no reason whatsoever. While Project M fixes all of the most prominent flaws and tackles the majority of the more subtle ones, of course there's also certain design decisions that really come down to a matter of preference. For instance, your characters move and fall at roughly the same rate as they do in Melee. There's also what they did with the character roster. They split up characters so there were no transformations before Sakurai thought to do so. There's also the fact they re-added multiple characters not available in Brawl like Mewtwo and Roy.
Number 1.
Goldeneye Sauce. If you've ever felt nostalgic for Goldeneye 64 and went to play it without your trusty rose-tinted glasses, you are almost certainly in for a shock, and not a pleasant one. The frame rate is awful, and then you try to play it on multiplayer and you're treated with a slideshow. But that's not the worst part. Oh no! What's worse is the controls. The 64's controller is in no way an asset when it comes to first-person shooters. The whole thing is such a hot mess that it taints the original to the point where you conclude, maybe it wasn't a good game after all. But have no fear, the Source Engine remake of GoldenEye makes you realize that it is in fact a good game and that all should play it. It's amazing just how much a bit of a graphical touch-up, a stable frame rate, and a keyboard and mouse can add to a game.
That's it for this countdown. And have a go!